Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining the Second Mile Fellowship here today. We are looking at Genesis chapter 29 and 30. And we've spent a lot of time on our Wednesday night character studies dealing with some of the main players in here, Leah and Rachel and such, and some of the patriarchs. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time analyzing a lot of things. If you are unfamiliar with the Wednesday night studies, I do encourage you to go back and take a look at some of those. And of course, be at church on Wednesday. I think it'll be a great thing to help you there. But I have chapter 29 broken down into three sections. The first is the first 12 verses, and I have that titled Jacob Meets Rachel at the Well. Jacob has been sent to Rachel's family to find a bride, and Jacob goes, and he goes to this well, and here comes Rachel with the flock, and Jacob is just absolutely smitten, and the rest is history. He finds out who she is, and he's certainly, this has got to be the hand of God, and they went back to her daddy, which is Laban, and if you remember Laban, we've already been introduced to Laban, and that was when the servant that Abraham had sent to find a bride for Abraham's son Isaac. Well, Rachel was not Rachel, but Rebekah was Laban's sister. And Laban was the one that when he saw all the jewels and things that the servant had brought, he was all for the whole union there. Laban, as you will see, is a very materialistic man. Proved that already and does so as we go through these chapters. So Rachel meets Jacob at the well, verses 13 through 30. I have that titled just Jacob Marries Twice. Not intentionally, but that's the way it turned out. And, pretty self-explanatory there. But through that, and all I'll say about this is what goes around comes around. Wasn't long ago when we saw Jacob beguiling his daddy, and now he's the one being beguiled. We reap what we sow. Verses 31 through 35, I have that titled, The Children of Israel Begin to Come Forth. And at the latter part here of the chapter 29, we see the first four sons being born. And notice the causality in verse number 31. And when the Lord saw that Leah was hated, he opened her womb. And so God specifically blessed her because man had rejected her. The husband in which she loved, and we see that by the progression of the naming of the children in which she had by him. She longed for her husband, but her husband didn't love her, loved Rachel, but Rachel was barren. We see Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah come forth. All four of these are spoken of throughout the patriarchs. There's a lot of focus on these four, especially Judah, as we move forward in the book of Genesis. And then chapter 30 brings us to it. I have that broken down into three sections. The first is the first 13 verses, and I have that titled The Maids Bear Next. So now that Leah has borne four children, Rachel is just envious, and she wants children. She cannot have children, so she gives her maid unto Jacob, so that maybe, she says, verse number 3, Behold, my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. And so she gets two children there. And so Leah says, well, let's just see, both of us do this. And so she gives her handmaid in Zilpah unto him, and she bears two children. Every time I read it, I just almost chuckle inside, and that is after she has four, and then Rachel's handmaid Bilhah has two. She gives her maid Zilpah unto him, and when the first comes forth, it's Gad. And verse number 11, and Leah said, A troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. In that, she already had four children, and then Rachel thought that she was going to get more, and here comes bearing another one. Oh, she got a troop coming. I don't know why. I just think that is just so funny, but I do. And verses 14 through 24 is the Mandrakes More, because it tells the story of Reuben going out and gathering mandrakes for his mother Leah. Well, mandrakes were thought to be a natural substance that would produce fertility. Reuben has gone to give this to his mother. He had gathered it, went to give it to his mother. And Rachel, she has got to have them. She makes a barter with Leah for essentially gathering the mandrakes and trading her husband time with Leah for it. So what we have here is Rachel is trusting in mandrakes, but Leah is trusting in God. You can have mandrakes all you want. If you ain't got the man, there ain't no children going to come forth. So anyway, we see that. And because of Leah's faithfulness in trusting in God and not the mandrakes, what does God do? Well, God rewards that faithfulness and brings forth 3 more children, 2 boys and a girl. We have Issachar and Zebulun come forth, and in Dinah, the sister. And then finally, in verse number 22, and God remembered Rachel, and God hearkened unto her and opened her womb. And she conceived a son. We see Joseph. And the thing that's really sad to me is she had been barren so long, and God blesses her and opens her womb, but it still ain't enough. And she called his name Joseph, verse number 24, and said, the Lord shall add to me another son. It's amazing how God brings blessings unto people, and they're always looking for the next one. Instead of being content and satisfied with what God hath provided, they look for more. So we should be content in whatever state we are in, because God is our God. He's on the throne, and he knows what's best for us. All right, moving on. And then lastly here, verses 25 through 43, I have that titled Laban Barters God Blesses. Jacob was wanting to free himself under the yoke of his stepfather, Laban. Wanted to take his children and take his wives and go make a life for himself, because all he's doing, he's working for his daddy-in-law. He has nothing of his own. So Laban says, he recognizes in verse number 27, Laban said unto him, I pray thee, for if I have found favor in thine eyes, tarry, for I have learned by experience that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. Laban understood that he was getting the blessings of God because of his association with Jacob, and that should teach us, guard our associations. Laban understood that. And so he talks, and they make a pact that all the rings straked and spotted will be Jacob's, and all the others are going to be Laban's. And of course, God uses this to bless Jacob and give him the inheritance. God can do whatever God wants to do, and God can bless in any manner in which he wants to bless. He certainly does that for Jacob here. And it says the end result, verse number 43, and the man increased exceedingly, speaking of Jacob, and he had much cattle and maid servants and men servants and camels and asses. And this is, of course, it's not going to be the last that we hear of Jacob and Laban's interactions. We have some crazy stuff going down in the next chapter when they finally do. Jacob finally is able to break the yoke of bondage that he is under Laban there. But that's tomorrow, and this is today, and that's all that we have. So I hope this has been a helping and blessing unto you, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow.